Nobody would tell the Japanese woman to forget about the fact that during World War II, the white man interned her family, took all of their personal possessions. Nobody would tell her to forget about that. Nobody would tell the Indian woman, forget about the fact that the white man came over here and took your country and put you and your babies out on the reservation. And nobody would dare to tell the Jewish woman to forget about the Holocaust, so why I gotta forget about slavery?
What do Pink Panthers and Sade have in common? They both had genre-bending music that had international success, like Smooth Operator. She was born in Nigeria and eventually went to school for fashion. One day, a group of friends asked her to replace a lead singer in their band. Sade ended up becoming the singer permanently and even sang in 2 more bands, one of which was named after her, Big Boss Energy. The band Sade had a smooth, jazzy new sound. They were famous. Sade's first performance at a London nightclub was so packed, they had to turn away 1,000 people. Sade was in the press and in the spotlight, but Sade soon realized that fame was not a perk of her art form. She felt uneasiness about fame and attention and never wanted to indulge the public about her personal life. Sade stepped out of the press, PR, and marketing and chose privacy and let her music do the talking. And even in Sade's long absences, 40 years later, we're still bumping Smooth Operator.
The richest man in history was black, and in his 20s, he was richer than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos combined. His name is Mansa Musa, and he was the king of one of the largest empires in African history. He got rich because his kingdom was surrounded by literal mountains of gold, so much that they used to give it away for free. He once traveled across the country with an entourage of over 60,000 people, dripped out in over $4 billion of gold. Even his camels were carrying $6 million each. Once he arrived to his destination, he gave out free gold to every poor person he saw. In fact, he gave out so much that gold became worthless in that city for almost 12 years. It's estimated that he was worth over $400 billion, and when he died, his kingdom had nearly half of the supply of gold in the entire world. And that's why
would place rice, seeds, and sometimes gold on the scalp between 2 sections of hair. They did this so that if they were captured and forced to voyage across the Atlantic, they'd at least have a small amount of food for sustenance. The technique was also used if they were planning a brave escape. Seeds and gold could help them build their new life.
Finding out that people hid food in hair was really a shock to me, but I also wasn't surprised because I don't think there's a style that is more meaningful than braiding. It's been used for so many reasons throughout African history. It makes the style even more meaningful, even more powerful.
Who's a historical figure that people never talk about, good or bad? I'll go first. Bet you've never heard of Sarah Rector, who at the age of 12 became a multimillionaire and the richest black child in the world. She became so rich that the Oklahoma legislature petitioned to make her a white person on paper. God forbid a black person ever be wealthy. How does she get this money? She was actually a descendant of Creek Nation Native Americans. And basically after the Civil War, a lot of land which now belongs to present-day Oklahoma, given to descendants of the Creek Nation Native Americans. Sarah was given about 160 acres. Land was considered to be infertile and not suitable for business, and the fertile land was given to white people. Around 1913, Sarah's father leased the land to an oil driller, and what do you know, the land was super fertile for oil, generated about 2,500 barrels a day. Started to receive royalties, which made her a millionaire by the age of 18. The state of Oklahoma tried to make her a white person on paper, or switch her guardianship to a white person, because a black person wasn't suited to guard her. Nonetheless, amassed way more millions, lived to the age of 65.
Yeah, so that never happened. This is, of course, from the film Hidden Figures, starring Taraji P. Henson, Janelle Monáe, Octavia Spencer. They all gave incredible performances. including a now well-known monologue of Taraji talking about how she works like a dog day and night, drinking out of a coffee pot that none of the white men who she works with want to touch, and she has to walk to Timbuktu, as she says, to use the bathroom because there are no colored bathrooms in the building. So Taraji P. Henson in the film is playing this woman, Katherine Johnson, who was a NASA mathematician, and her calculations were absolutely essential to some of the US's very first manned missions into space. But because she was a black woman, she and many of the other black women that worked at NASA who were also essential to their missions never got their full credit in their time or in the annals of history. A book got written, a film got made, the film was a smash, Octavia Spencer was nominated for an Oscar. And this scene in particular is the one that everybody loves. It goes viral all the time, and it's the one that people stood up and applauded in the movie theater. But it was literally made up. The film was based on a book, but not only was Kevin Costner playing a composite character of 3 different white men from that time, and not only did none of those 3 men actually go and take a crowbar and knock down the sign to the colored bathroom and say, "At NASA, we all pee the same." In real life, Katherine Johnson used the white restroom and dared somebody to tell her she couldn't do it. Which, to be clear, is a way better scene. Can't you imagine Taraji walking out of the whites only bathroom and some white person coming up and trying to be like, and her being like, and then walking back to work? I would watch that right now. Now I know what you're thinking. Historical movies based on a true story, they take liberties all the time. But we have to ask ourselves why so many of these films are taking liberties to create moments for a white savior to exist, where they didn't. What actually existed here was black boldness and black bravery. That should be story enough. And, not for nothing, but we don't actually have to make up drama where white supremacy is concerned. It is terrible enough without us having to invent more oppression. Sure, it's just a movie, but plenty of people actually think that happened. And even more, people are so used to the white savior trope that they don't even recognize how many marginalized people, black folks especially, have been saving ourselves for a long time. I am incredibly glad that Katherine Johnson and all of her colleagues and sisters are no longer hidden figures, and that young people everywhere, especially young black girls, understand that they can be superstars in STEM. And I'm grateful to the black women who put in these performances. But Hollywood, when these strikes are over, do better.
Enslaved people frequently ate chicken because they were cheap, easy to manage, and the only livestock they were allowed to keep. Chicken wasn't viewed as a quality meat, so white people introduced laws prohibiting enslaved people from owning pigs and cows, leaving only chicken. But when the Civil War hit, food for soldiers was scarce, so white people started stealing chickens and imprisoning black people for the crime. That was the start of the negative association between black people and chicken, but Birth of a Nation solidified it. A movie entirely dedicated to racist propaganda, one scene in particular was focused on destroying the idea that black people should be allowed to vote. White actors in blackface portrayed legislators, one of which was grossly eating fried chicken with his hands, sending the intentional message that black people were uncouth and therefore undeserving of the right to be active in the politics of this country. Often hailed as the first ever blockbuster, Birth of a Nation was seen by millions, effectively cementing the racist stereotype in people's minds, and it remains one of the most pervasive stereotypes in existence to this day.